Welcome to Nolan Knows. This episode, we're going to deal with the Constitution. If you ask most Americans what kind of government, what form of government we have in this country, they'll tell you we have a democracy. That gives you an idea just how badly they've been taught about the Constitution and the form of government that we have. We do not have a democracy. We have democratically elected officials, but we have a republic. When you pledge allegiance to the flag, it is to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. The genius of the Founding Fathers when they wrote the Constitution was recognizing that two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for lunch isn't a good idea. Tyranny of the majority won't work. And so they gave us a republic and a constitution with rules and regulations. And both Democrats and Republicans have pretty much been ignoring the Constitution for about the last 120 years. But the fact is, the Constitution has some guarantees for us. And it is those guarantees of liberty, those guarantees for private property, for freedom of speech, the right to own and bear arms. It is the Bill of Rights and that Constitution that enabled this country to go from a third world country, which is what we were in 1776, to a world superpower. It is the genius of the Founding Fathers in establishing this republic. The rules that protect private property set us apart from almost every other country in the world. If you own something, I don't care how many of us vote to take it away, we shouldn't have the right to do that. That means that we can build a house, build a business, and know that we can prosper because the government or our neighbors aren't going to stop by one day and tell us we have to move, they're taking it over. They also gave us freedom of the press so we could complain about our legislators. We could complain about traffic. We could talk about anything we want without fear of repression, without fear that the government would seize our property or lock us up in jail. The Founding Fathers developed a terrific document in the Constitution. They gave us a Second Amendment, the right to own and bear arms. That was in order to protect all of the other amendments in the Constitution, because without it, there's no reason for the government to just trample over the rest of our rights. So we're going to spend a little time today talking about the rest of the Constitution on Nolan Knows. All right, the lightning round, since we're talking about the Constitution, I thought the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. And yet we have campaign finance laws that stop us from generating the money we need to buy ads, that prevent me from giving whatever amount of money I've earned to a candidate. I can give it to you, but I can't give it to you if you run for office. That's a violation of my freedom of speech. The Second Amendment says the people have the right to keep and bear arms. Well, some people don't believe that. They think it has to do with having a militia, and that if you don't belong to a militia, you can't own and bear arms. But that's not exactly what the Founding Fathers said, and if you translate the language of that amendment into the time that it was written, it basically means that I have a right, guaranteed, to own and bear arms. Third Amendment says that soldiers cannot be quarantined in our homes without consent of the owners. Well, this is actually one of the amendments we seem to have honored pretty much, so we'll move on to the next amendment. Fourth Amendment, it says that people have the right to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizures. Government, however, insists that they can conduct commando-style raids on our homes and treat airline travelers like prison inmates by conducting virtual strip searches. They do it in the airports all the time. I think that one's being beat to death. Fifth Amendment says that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. Government officials, however, insist that they can use eminent domain to take away your home in your city so that they can repurpose the property to generate more tax revenue. They've tried it in several places. The federal government, just through the Supreme Court, approved it, and it's wrong. The Sixth Amendment says that in criminal prosecutions, the person accused is guaranteed a right to trial by jury. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of this little technique the government uses when it comes to seizing your private property, but they do this all the time. They think that you are selling drugs out of your house, they seize your house. If they think your money is ill-gotten gains, they seize it, even if you're just driving down the road. That strikes me as a violation. The Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases where the controversy shall exceed $20. That's in quote, by the way. Government officials insist they can impose draconian fines on people without jury trials. And that goes back to what we were talking about a second ago. It's called asset forfeiture. Look it up. It's dangerous. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Government officials insist, however, that a life sentence for a nonviolent drug offense isn't cruel. I disagree with that. In fact, I don't see the point in putting somebody in prison for smoking a joint or using drugs. I don't see where that makes any sense at all or where it even helps them. The Ninth Amendment says that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights should not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Government officials, however, insist that they'll decide for themselves what rights, if any, will be retained by the people. That ought to scare people. They have no right to do these things. The 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the federal government are reserved to the states, and yet the federal government, to get its way, to have its power over the states, blackmails them all the time. The drinking age in your state is controlled by the federal government. Your education policies are controlled by the federal government. Seems to me that they violated that amendment as well. This segment of the program is called Missed in School. One part of the Constitution that doesn't seem to get a lot of attention in school is the doctrine of enumerated powers. People on the left think the welfare clause is the excuse given by the Founding Fathers to expand the size and scope of federal government. But that's clearly not true. The welfare clause is the general welfare of the country at large, not individuals. If that was in fact what the Founding Fathers meant when they wrote the welfare clause, they wouldn't have needed the doctrine of enumerated powers. Now, this little-known secret not taught in school tells us what the federal government has the authority to do. And it's not including welfare, food stamps, it's not Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. None of those extra constitutional things are covered. The doctrine of enumerated powers says that you can mint coin, raise a navy, post roads, which means you pave roads between post offices. You can settle treaties, taxes. It doesn't say anything about any of those other things, and the Founding Fathers did that on purpose. They did it so they could retain the small federal government that we needed to grow, and it worked. It worked for 200 years, making us the fastest growing economy, making us the most powerful nation in the world. We need to teach kids about the doctrine of enumerated powers, because if you don't know about it, when somebody violates it, how do you know that your rights are being violated? Doctrine of enumerated powers. Look it up.